So, this is my second response to Darren, whose YouTube channel is Ask, Listen, Obey. And he aborted a video that it was on his channel, and I did want to respond to it because in it he tells a story of a Christian manager who felt like he got a message from God to fire someone, and then felt like he got a message from God or validation from God that he should hire someone else. And I just don't think that I can convey in words how extremely insane that sounds to someone who does not believe in the Christian God. I would hate to be the guy who was fired on the whim of my manager who thought he got a message from God. I would like to know that it was because I messed up, or I wasn't producing enough on the job site. Not just, my manager thinks he got a message from God because, well, why wouldn't God just give the message to the worker and tell him, you should quit? Why does it have to be the hostile firing of someone because God told the manager to fire them? Why wouldn't he just leave it up to the worker? Burn a bush in front of him and say, hey, this is God speaking. Pull down your pants. Now put them back on. I was just testing you. What I really want you to do is just quit your job. And then if he wanted to follow God's advice and quit his job, he could. And it wouldn't be such a mean thing to do to someone, But that video isn't up anymore. Probably because of what was on the end of it. Nothing extremely bad as far as theology is concerned. But Darren, if you want to put that video back up, you could download Windows Movie Maker for free and then just use it to cut the end of that video off, and you wouldn't lose that video, And, it's something to talk about. It's more content for your channel. Anyways, this video is actually a response to what is now his third video, Why I Believe in God. And I'm still, smiling over the whole being part of the inspiration that brought Darren to buy a webcam and start participating in our community. So, people have asked me, when am I going to start, being like the rabid pit bull that Agent of Doubt is, and just go after him. But I'm still smiles so far. Yeah. So not in this video, at least. So spoilers about Darren's video, if you haven't seen it yet. Darren had something that he needed and prayed about it, and God provided exactly how much he needed, no more, no less. And the chances of it happening were, astronomical. That's the crux of the story. If you would like to hear it explained from the eyes of a true believer, I really suggest watching his video because he gets so into it. Yeah. So here are my problems with that as a reason for believing in God. Why couldn't God, if he could stick a $100 bill into your girlfriend's pants, why couldn't he also stick a note that says, hey, Here's looking out for you, Darren. Signed, God. You know? Why, not just, show up at your door and just hand it to you? Why not have you have enough money in the first place? Does God cause deficits in our wallets so that he can provide just enough to prove that he exists? So God, knowing that you would have to pay this mover, would cause you to be exactly $100 short through whatever circumstances that you came to, and then give you exactly that $100 that you need in order to give you a small miracle that you wouldn't have needed if he hadn't caused those circumstances in the first place. Seriously, burning bushes would be like more sensible to me because they'd be more obvious. I know people who have prayed for things that they needed a lot worse than $100, and they did not receive what they got, or what they needed. They received what they got. I can remember when my sister Deb was dying of cancer 3 years ago, how my stepmother was praying over her bedside every day for 8 months of agonizing, painful hospice care. And didn't work in the end. Yeah. And months later, when my cousin Verby was also diagnosed with cancer, I remember being by his side for about a month in June of 2008, and knowing what my sister went through and seeing his condition, I didn't think that he would... I didn't think that he would die within a week or so. I thought he had at least a few months, because he was still in good shape outwardly. But on June 30th of 2008, I remember, I was driving to Wisconsin because I had previously been into pyrotechnics in Wisconsin, and I had invested a large sum of money in a fireworks show. In fact, it was around $2,500. So I drove back up to Wisconsin to be a part of that, even though I was going to eventually move away from that state. And a lot of that had to do with my sister's death, and me just wanting to start over again. But I had some things to take care of, and one of those things was that fireworks show. And on July 1st, my cousin Verby passed away. Suddenly. They call it July 2nd because even though he was in the ambulance that night, or the 1st, but they declared him dead after hours of stuff. But what happened was he had a varicose vein burst in his esophagus, and that vein was it was swollen because of complications due to his cancer, and he ended up bleeding to death from the inside. So even though outwardly he didn't really look as sick as most cancer patients, on the inside bad stuff was going on. But I remember thinking to myself, fuck the show. I don't care about it anymore. I don't care what I invested in it. I want to go be with my family and go to the funeral. And I ended up taking a good portion of the ground fireworks, and some of the fireworks that I probably shouldn't have taken with me. I took them to Louisiana where the funeral was, and his funeral was on the 4th, or his viewing was on the 4th. His funeral was on the morning of the 5th, but I used some of those fireworks to distract his sons when we were all mourning. Basically, we just blew up our little portion of Louisiana, and it was astronomical odds that he would die, on the same week that I just had to shoot up to Wisconsin and finish that fireworks show and come back. And I ended up having to lose that entire investment. But I didn't ascribe anything that happened to Satan. I didn't think that God had chosen the exact wrong time for me to have lost my cousin. There really is no good time to lose anyone, but for me, that was a very inopportune time. So I think that for every one of these little experiences that you can share, there is a comparable experience that would be the exact opposite. Anyways, good video for a third video. Keep them coming. I did want to talk about T-Master's comment, because he was the first person to comment, and the only one I saw at the time. He said, it's sad that most will dismiss this off as coincidence. The fact that your wife had the $100 in her pocket and pull it out right when you guys needed it, she found it. And I disagree with T-Master. I think that it's sad that most people won't dismiss it off as coincidence. You might not be aware of the statistics as well as I am, but in this country, it's about 4/5 Christian and 1/5 not Christian, and even part of the 1/5 that isn't Christian still have spiritual leanings or other religions. So there's a good portion of the people in America that would believe that something spiritual happened when that coincidence happened. And I think that it's sad that the majority of people wouldn't see it as just a coincidence. Next thing T-Master said was, they will never see how really big just the small things like that are to us. Again, I disagree. I see how big these small things are for you. I do. And it upsets me a lot. Recently I saw a video by Inventor Gorilla where he was talking about the odds of Earth being in the Goldilocks zone of, not too hot, not too cold, we're in just the right distance away from the sun. We have large planets that are protecting us from meteors. Our sun is in just the right distance away from the center of the Milky Way, so that we don't get hit by all sorts of things from outer space all the time. And he says, isn't it magical, this coincidence that we are exactly where we need to be. And for me, it isn't magical. In fact, the way that I see it, mathematically, it was bound to happen that somebody would have a planet, some planet would be in exactly the right circumstances for life to happen. And I don't think that it's that much of a stretch that life would struggle with the odds of it happening. That life might feel like it had won the celestial lottery, as it were. And it's sometimes hard to deal with that life is full of coincidences that, if looked at singularly, they seem near impossible, But it's just a part of life that you would have experiences like that, really. I mean, life would be pretty dull and near meaningless if you couldn't make your life unique with experiences that were just your own. Well, I look forward to your 4th, 5th, and 6th videos, Darren, and keep up the good work at work, because I'd hate to think that your boss might, have some other kind of, spiritual message come down the pipe.